Hey guys! Today I'm going to be teaching you how to make a rune necklace. I posted a picture on my Instagram last night of my rune necklace, which I'm wearing right now. It's gotten almost 1,000 likes and a bunch of comments which asked how'd you make it, where'd you make it, how did you make this stuff, and where'd you get it? So I decided to make a tutorial about how to make a rune necklace for you guys so you guys can make them by yourself and on your own. Okay, so first thing you'll need to have is a rune, because this is a rune necklace, so you might want to print off any type of rune you want. I'm picking the Angelic Power rune, but you want to print it off small enough or the size that you want it to be, and then you're going to be cutting it out. Mine's kind of messy, but it doesn't have to be perfect because you just want to get the shape of it. And the next thing you'll need is very important to this whole entire project, and that is the baking clay. I have Primo baking clay because it's pretty good. You want to make sure that it's being very squishable and you're able to mold it, because sometimes they're very dried out if they've been on the rack for too long. So you may want to just futz around with it before you buy it. Good choice, just do that. I've gotten clay that's been very dried out. It's a pain in the butt. These usually run from $2 to $3 a pack, and it has 4 little bars of this, and that'll be enough to make your rune. The next thing you'll need is your utensils, or whatever you're going to be using to carve this. You can either have a scapula type thingy or this little poker. I got this with a kit that you can mold clay with, but you know what, I actually recommend a pocket knife. Pocket knives are great for this because it has a knife in it, which is very small, so it's easier to maneuver around the clay. And it has this little nail filer, so you can use the tip of it to smooth out the edges, and that's what I mostly use. I sometimes use these, but not as much as I use my little knife. And then the last thing you'll need is a rolling pin, because you need to roll it out if you want it to make it smaller or larger. It just really helps out. You can do it with your hands, but that's a little bit more difficult, so I very much recommend the rolling pin. Okay, so first you're going to want to squish this up a little bit so it's kind of squishy, not as firm, and sort of make it into a cylinder roll. Next, you're going to want to just roll it out to a thickness that you would want it to be. You don't want it to be too thin, because then it'll be sort of bendy and it could break easier. It's very durable, but sometimes they do break. So you'd probably want it to be kind of thick, but kind of not. So like that. So after you're done with that, you're going to want to take your pocket knife or your little scapula, and you're going to want to trace out the figure. Make sure you're kind of careful with this, because you don't want to cut yourself or cut the table underneath, because if you can see in this camera, you might see the indents of my previous runes that I kind of scratched into the table. But it's okay, because I love runes and I don't mind if they're scratched in there. But your parents might, so just to warn you. Then you're going to want to place your rune on top of a certain place on the clay where you want to trace it out. Make sure the clay is wide enough and long enough for your rune to fit, because you do not want to do this over again, because it'll just be a huge pain. Press the rune down so it doesn't move while you're tracing it out, because then it'll distort the image that's going to be placed on the clay. I recommend you start at the middle first and trace your way along it, just so you can get the layout of it out of the way. You might want to hold on to it just so it doesn't move, because then, as I said before, the image will distort and it'll probably look more like a clump of clay rather than a rune. The Angelic Power rune is a little bit more difficult since it's so close cut together, but it's probably the easiest rune to do if you don't know the runes that well. So once you're done, you're going to want to lift that paper up and you'll get the outline of your rune. Here's the part you want to be careful with, because you do not want to tear your rune in any type of way. That's why I recommend you either put on parchment paper or a type of waxy surface. To make it easier, you may want to just cut the sides and take those off, just so you have a smaller surface area to work with. So cut as close as you can, just to be careful. Now you're going to slowly peel away the edges. You may need to recut some of it just because you don't want to futz around with it, so you might not rip the edges. You don't want to rip the edges, so you may need to recut it a little bit. Okay, so now you have the outline of your rune done. You'll then want to go and use this soft little edge, either of your pocket knife or the blunt edge of this little scapula, and smooth out any imperfections there may be. Just be careful not to press too hard, so you may destroy the shape of it. Once you're done with that, you're going to want to roll out a little piece of scrap that you used before into a small little line of clay, because that's going to be your necklace loop. You are then going to make it into a little loop, not too big, but it depends on the size of your rune, and you're going to sort of squish it together. So it kind of makes a ribbon type shape pattern, and then you're going to lay it down, take your scapula or your knife, and just cut off the excess. Then you're going to flip your rune to whichever side you want to be the front of it, and you're going to put that facing downward because you're going to hook the little loop onto the back of your rune. And you're going to smooth down the edge right here so it doesn't disconnect from the rune. Make sure it's really dug in there so it's not easily breakable. So now the outline of your rune is done. Now you're going to start to handle it with a little bit more care than you did before, because you do not want to ruin it, the shape of it, because it's very easy to, since it's still very soft and squishy until you bake it. So all you need to do now is bake your clay. You want to preheat the oven to 275 degrees, and you're going to want to put your baking clay in on top of parchment paper or wax paper and put it in there for about 15 minutes. This clay is very good for any type of project. I also made a seraph blade. I made another rune necklace, which is of the Fortitude rune, which is one of my favorite runes. I also made a rune ring, which is very durable, and it's very ring-like, which I very recommend you try. So thank you guys for watching. I hope this helped you achieve your rune necklace. Tell me what yours came out as in the comments below, or email me your pictures at phantomsnews.com, or post a video response. I would love to see how yours came out, or just tag me in a post on Instagram and I'll go check that out too. And if you want a really good rune necklace, I very much recommend you go visit Vivian Hebel at hebeldesign.com. She creates amazing Phantom-related jewelry, and this is where I got my inspiration of creating a rune necklace from, so I very much recommend you go visit her site. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope to see you guys soon. Bye!